Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From the City of Angels in Los Angeles and from the Big Apple in New York City on Fire Island. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host Adrian Gruberg at caregiverspace.org. Say hello, Adrian.
Hi.
Also coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks, kind of like iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, VIP Internet Radio, TuneIn.com, all that stuff. And we are a voted number one caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM, and number two caregiver podcast on FeedSpot out of the top 60, and number two again on caringvillage.com. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today, don't we, Adrian?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Janet Borgenson and Jonathan Schroeder, finding fun and connection with vintage vinyl records. I know we're going to have to explain what exactly that means, and we will. But before we get started, I want to take this moment and thank last week's guest, Susan Shumsky, all about mind, energy, and emotional health. And just a reminder, you can watch and listen to that interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of the other 26 global networks I mentioned earlier. Okay, enough of that. Jonathan and Janet, welcome to the Caregiver Dave Show. We're so excited to have you on.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you.
And I always like to ask my guests, just who are Jonathan and Janet and why were they placed on this earth? Ladies first.
I'm Janet Borgerson, and I have spent a lot of time reading and writing in my life. And that meant focusing on books and print, getting out into the world to then come back and write about it. But when I started taking care of my mom, helping with my mom, that transformed some of the way I saw the world. And so I'm a little more in a different space now, which is a really good space, but different for someone who had spent a lot of time reading and writing.
You're a caregiver. How about you, Jonathan?
Well, Janet and I both grew up in Flint, Michigan. We knew each other. Our parents just happened to have cottages on the same lake in northern Michigan.
I hope you didn't drink the water.
Yeah, no, and Flint's a good place to be from nowadays. But my parents still live there, so we end up spending some time back there. Janet and I were crazy about each other in high school, but we really didn't date. We didn't go to prom. But when we were in our 30s, we ended up seeing each other on this lake in northern Michigan, and we'd always kept in touch. And we just decided, we better do something about this. So Janet broke up with the guy that she was living in a house with, and I broke up with a woman I was seeing for 2 years, kind of abruptly. I'm sorry. And we got together and began to really seriously live our lives together. And one of the things we do is collect vinyl records.
Really? And what do you do with these vinyl records now that you're both caregivers? You're a caregiver too, right?
Yeah, my parents are 92 and 93, and they're still living in the house I grew up in. So I go home, and when I go to help them, I stay in my childhood bedroom. There's a new mattress. Yeah, we have a new mattress. It's not the same.
My adult married kids started, with kids of their own, started collecting vinyl records, and I was so upset because they forced me to get rid of my vinyl. In lieu of CDs, I had to, this was like 20, 30 years ago, however long it was. And, I like to hang on to things like VCRs and 4-track, 8-track tapes. But I finally did it, finally took the plunge. And now I hear that it's the latest thing, and they're they like the crackling sound. I don't get it. I'm just sorry. Get it. Why did they make me change in the first place?
Why did they make you get rid of them? That's terrible. I remember
Nobody
my dad
wanted them back in those days. Don't you remember?
Oh, my first concert.
Really? So
Yeah.
you remember Balcony Rock, which is on this one. And this is my dad's record. And I remember him telling me about it when I was younger. And I was probably buying CDs, or, I wasn't so into what he had listened to. But a couple years ago, I found this, I pulled it out, I put it on, and he got so excited because a couple of these tracks were recorded in Ann Arbor. And that's where he had heard it.
You still had a phonograph to put it on?
Oh, yes. We've always had turntables. I've had my own. My dad and mom had their turntable. Wow. And so this Dave Brubeck Jazz Go to College, it was kind of a connection back to that moment, me remembering changing from not really being interested in what my dad was telling me to realizing that what he was telling me was actually sort of interesting. And now one of the things that we love is we might bring out a record like Jazz Goes to College, Dave Brubeck, or maybe one like this, the Duke Ellington, with lots of big band songs, really great. And on the back of both of these records, there are liner notes. And although I cannot get my dad to read a book, I've gotten books that would relate to topics he was interested in when he was younger. I've gotten books that are stories written in places that he was fascinated with, and I just can't get him to read them. But if I give him a record album with liner notes, even if they're the size of the tiniest print you can imagine, he will read the liner notes from cover to cover. So it's become a topic of conversation. It's become a way to use these record album covers to bring a little bit of excitement and life. And of course, you can play the record, which is nice too.
You read it while you're listening to the record. That's what we used to do, right? So that's what he did. Yeah. So what a great, great, great idea. It's not just the music, it's the album cover.
No, and in these days, you could pull up the song you want to hear on your phone, which is one thing I think is so convenient about this, is that we get these records maybe for $1 a piece at the bargain bin in a local record store, like Music for an Italian Dinner at Home. And on the back are recipes. So, you could plan an imaginary dinner party. You could talk to people about their favorite dishes that they used to cook or that their parents used to cook for them. And if you want to hear a song on it, you could just pull it up on your phone. You don't even need a turntable to listen to the music.
And this is also entertaining for the caregiver because, when's the last time they read a record album, right? Especially if you're picking up new ones at the thrift store. What a bargain.
Yes.
And he really does. He pores over the liner notes and he sings along, he remembers the lyrics. And again, he's having trouble with his short-term memory, but wow, he can remember song lyrics from 70 years ago. And I think one of the powerful things is we realized some of the records were his father's, so Janet's grandfather. Mm-hmm. And so Janet's dad had been singing along when he was a kid.
Exactly the record.
We went through.
The records are in good condition.
Most of them are pretty good, and if you keep, I think they were generally taken care of. And then there was this huge period of about 50 years where nobody played them.
Yeah, right. Nobody played them.
Vintage.
Yeah,
the ones you get in bargain bins are not necessarily in good shape.
But the covers are still reminiscent. Yeah,
that's right. So the covers are enough. And then if you have to hear a song and you don't have a turntable, you can just pull it up. Or if it's all scratched, it doesn't matter. You can just play it from an iPad.
Or it skips. I hate when they skip. We went through my mother and then my mother-in-law, dementia, and then her husband. And so we had a nice little break. But now my mother's sister has just come down with dementia. Mm-hmm. And me and my sister are the only living relatives here on the West Coast that can care for her. So it's like starting all over again. Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
But that is, the thing we had in common is we both sang karaoke at her place, and then COVID stopped it and we missed it terribly. But that would be a great idea for my Aunt Joan to get some covers of her favorite music and get a microphone and a little speaker and go and bring the album cover in. And
Yes.
I think that would make her so happy, and I would have fun too.
Because, you could decide to pull some stuff out of the closet, find a
sister had
scarf that was reminiscent of the 70s, or find, a pair of, a cowboy shirt reminiscent of the square dances that your Aunt Joan used to go to. And you could say, let's pull out a scarf and let's sing along to this song. Let's be inspired by what they're wearing, what they're singing. Yeah.
You're getting me excited here because I was saying, what am I going to do with her? But now you just solved the problem.
Well, and the most recent thing that we focused on was dancing. And, these rhythms, people remember these rhythms.
Yeah.
If all they can do is chair dance.
Yes.
Yeah. And that
It gets them going. I've seen on my site some people post pictures of their grandmothers or their parents with blues music or whatever, and the memory, and they're like lip syncing the songs or singing along with it and really wailing with the music. They love it.
Yeah,
it's great.
I think it gives you permission to be excited and enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Now, you haven't brought up the fact of singing along or karaoke or microphone. Have you done that as well? Does he like to sing? Well, I know it's difficult to sing with a jazz album, but
but no,
is that what he is, a jazz fan?
Well, he would, like Jonathan said, some of the records we pulled out were records that were in the household when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And they were quite scratchy and they required a 78 speed, but we put it on. And he did start singing. There was one about a woman who had an Irish name and Bicycle Built for Two. And I didn't prompt him, but because he heard that, he's cognizant. He's not completely, it's not like he just started bursting out in song and he never speaks, because he talks and, we have conversations, but just unprompted, he got so excited by the fact that this was a record that he had learned the lyrics to when he was just a little boy. And yet on the other hand, I think this is something else. Sometimes maybe the guys are a little bit like, oh, they don't want to sing along to Bicycle Built for Two. But if somebody went to a particular school, like if it were, Columbia or Princeton or University of Illinois, they have these records, and these people might even have, records in their own collection that they used to listen to. But I love the idea that, my dad, we could get out our blue and maize and blue and sing along to Hail to the Victors, that kind of thing, connecting it to maybe the football game we're going to watch, or the baseball game we're going to watch, or, Dancing with the Stars. Oh, let's put a square dance record on. Let's put a samba record on and get into that music. And then, it makes it more fun to sit then and watch maybe the TV show. So you can kind of tie in the themes.
Right.
Does he like to dance?
Oh my God. My dad was an amazing dancer.
Really?
And he would spin my mom. He was 6'2" and she was 5'1", and he would spin her around the floor. My poor mom, she was just out of control the whole time because he was pulling her this way and that. But, balance issues. I remember the last time that my mom got out and danced with my dad and really, really danced. And she was having aphasia by then. And she was, but her balance, she was always, doing exercise, but she got out on the floor with my dad, and it was at a Halloween party, right? So everyone was excited and they danced like crazy, but not too long after that, my dad became very afraid of falling. And my mom ultimately did fall, not dancing, but, some dumb little thing. She just tipped back. But with her walker, even if we would put the music on with the iPad, she loved steel drum music. So we always had Harry Belafonte and, those musics playing.
Wow, that's a lot of fun. When did you first start collecting these things?
Well, it's funny. I think both of us started buying records, when we were pretty young. And then in high school, we got really into music. And
so you never stopped?
No, exactly.
and I never really thought of myself as a collector. It's just I never got rid of my records. And then
did you buy CDs when they came out?
We did, yeah. I got CDs, and
But you kept the LPs.
Kept the LPs, and I do stream occasionally, but.
But why did you keep the LPs? That's what I want to know.
I was way too cheap to buy all the CDs to replace the records that I loved. I mean, I think that was part of it. I thought, well, I knew people who were replacing their entire LP collection. I thought, oh, that's insane. I like my records. They're never going to go out. I always would have something to play them on. So it never occurred to me to get rid of them.
Wow. You're one of the smart ones.
But, I think I was in grad school in Madison, Wisconsin, and I lived around the corner from a St. Vincent de Paul. And I'd be putting off my essay writing or studying for whatever. And I would go over to St. Vinny's and I would peruse the china, which was wonderful. All that old diner china coming out of the rural Wisconsin dinner clubs, those were fun. But there were records, and the St. Vinny's records were fantastic. And that's when I started buying records for the goofy covers, or, so like witchcraft, right? Something just crazy. Or, I was doing some work on feminist philosophy. And in the 50s, there were these women in martini glasses wearing little outfits. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is helping to explicate some of the concepts that I'm looking at in my feminist philosophy classes. And actually, for my PhD defense, I brought records and held them up. And one of them was called "Girls Were Made to Take Care of Boys." And I said, this is why I'm writing this thesis. I think they thought I was crazy, but,
I'm afraid to ask, but just how many LPs do you have in your collection?
We probably have about 6,000 records now.
6,000. How much room does 6,000 records take up?
Well, we have one whole room in our house, we call it the media room, but mostly it's records, kind of floor to ceiling.
Are they stacked vertically or horizontally on shelves? How do you stack them?
Everything, all of the above, yeah. Kind of big shelves with records, but they have
that's the
flowed out. They have flowed out to almost every room of the house. So
yeah, they're everywhere.
But how do you find what you want? How do you organize them? Or they're not?
They're pretty well organized. I mean,
themes. One whole genre of music that we have, we call, international around the world. And some of them is, it'll be like serious music from Tahiti, or, actual Japanese orchestra music. And we group them in with music, which is completely inauthentic, just like Hawaiian music with dudes from, Indiana playing. Yeah, Don Ho is one of the more authentic ones, of his era. But indeed, oh yes, we have tiny bubbles. But, every once in a while, I'll go through those international records and I'll say, now, why do I have New Zealand next to Japan? Maybe New Zealand should actually be closer to, and then I'll start reorganizing the international section. And I feel like I've learned a lot about world geography and politics based on what record countries I felt went next to each other. And it's really changed. So maybe initially I had the US next to England, but I'm like, the US isn't next to England. Oh, maybe I should have England next to the countries that it had colonial power over. Maybe I should. So we relentlessly reorganize our records. So it depends on the era we're in.
So you must be listening to music every minute of the day.
I think I like to have music on all the time. Janet, maybe not quite as much. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of new records, and we ended up writing books about records. So it's become kind of not just a passion, but a vocation. So, and when we write these books, we have to listen to every single record we're talking about. So, it's kind of like, okay, today we're going to have to listen to these 5 records, and then we're going to write about them.
Well, give me the example of a book that you wrote about a record.
The first book we wrote in this area was called Design for Hi-Fi Living. It's called, and the subtitle is The Vinyl LP in Midcentury America. And we really tried to tell the story of post-war America through record albums, especially the covers. We're really interested in the cover art, the design, the photography.
So you had those pictures in the book?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost, how many records were in the first book? 150 or so?
150 in the first book.
And we divided it up into categories like Let's Have a Dinner Party. So music for an Italian dinner at home was featured, along with French dinner at home, Chinese dinner at home, and then the American version of dinner at home was the barbecue. That's a whole series. But then we were also thinking mid-century, that's Cold War. So we were very interested to find resonances with Cold War after World War II, in that kind of mid-century Sputnik has, beaten us into outer space kind of dynamic. And so we have a chapter on Cuba, and we have a chapter on space, and we have a chapter that focuses, and this is all record covers, basically the graphics on the record covers, and they're so beautiful. That's what we're focused on in that book. And we tried to thematize it so that it made sense in this cultural history kind of way.
Wow.
And then the book that's just coming out is Designed for Dancing, How Mid-Century Records Taught America to Dance. And so a record like this one, Square Dance, is in it. That's the Square Dance chapter. Some of the records that I have from my grandfather, he was a square dance caller, are in the book, and they sort of start the book out this sense of, family lineage. But then we've got a chapter on, again, the Supremes, the go-go dancing, the 60s dance. We have chapters on folk dance, so Lebanese, Italian.
We're Lebanese. We got a lot of Syrian records.
Oh my gosh.
Arabic.
Well,
yeah.
I love this record. It's Lebanese folk dance, and some of the liner notes, the way that they describe how you are eating with everyone in the town, and then you go out to the village and you see the people dancing and you're able to join in, and they have a little blessing they say at the end. It's like, we greet you once again, we welcome you back. And it's just the liner notes are moving. They're truly moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My album covers on those are almost rated X, because the belly dancers, they got the little things that go on the nipples with the tassels.
Little tassels.
I remember liking those very much when I was a little boy.
We have that one.
Yeah.
We have a chapter on belly dance. And
my favorite was Port Said.
That's it. We have it in there. It's in the book.
We're Middle Eastern, so I heard that Syrian music like all through my childhood.
That's
so when I
cool.
became an adult, I started playing it, and everyone thought I was crazy, but it brought back such memories.
Yeah.
Well, what we realized about the belly dance records, in many cases, the covers are, exotic and erotic, and really some of them quite outrageous and funny. But what we realized was, in some ways, it really was just a marketing technique to open people's eyes within the United States to some of the most well-known and talented musicians that were trying to make a kind of international career. So many times the music isn't just completely hokey and silly. It actually is featuring the amazing oud player or someone who's, doing a kind of drumming. So that's what we realized. Some of the music is quite good.
Yeah, and they've got very good singers. There's a very famous singer called Sabah and Farouk.
Yes,
And,
she's on some of our records. We have her.
We
wrote about her. Yeah. We wrote about her in the first book because we have a chapter on records from Capital called Capital of the World. And you probably have this record. There was Evening in Beirut.
Yes.
And there's Evening in, I guess it was Evening in Beirut that we wrote about. And the thing that for me that's so exciting about those is that might have been the first time that some people had Arabic script in their house. Say you're not from those places, but you're buying a Capital of the World record and you turn it over and there's English, and then there's Arabic. And you can actually translate between them, and you're being introduced to some of these really famous, wonderful singers. So we wrote about Evening in Beirut. It's gorgeous. It's a great record, and the cover is beautiful.
So how many books do you have? As many albums?
Two are published, so Design for Hi-Fi Living and Design for Dancing. And we're working on a third book, and this is about instructional records. So records that taught you how to teach, how to speak French,
Right.
how to fish, how to bowl, how to train your dog.
Yes. Bowling records.
How to
Bowling
get
records.
to talk, all kinds of fun. The covers aren't quite as interesting, but the content is really interesting.
The content's really interesting. So maybe Amway. We have a couple Amway lectures. And that whole idea of American enterprise, that again, within this mid-century, post-World War II, anti-communist, in a sense, era, where many of these records, just like podcasts, they were marketing a national set of values. And you really see that.
Adrian, you have any records?
Oh,
really?
My late husband would get free records. He would get demos. He did a television show, so he would do
reviews,
and he would get all of these records, but they would snip the corner of the album cover.
Yeah.
So not all the covers are collectible, but when he passed away, there was some that were just so obscure, which I'm sure are insanely collectible. I did get rid of a lot of those. This year I moved, and I did get rid of a lot of records, a lot of vinyl, but I did keep a lot of vinyl. I can't say why I kept the ones that I kept, except that they resonated, they resonated with me.
Some kind of sentimental.
I could not give them up. But
I've got a couple like that too, up in the attic.
We had thousands and thousands of records.
And I don't know why I'm keeping the ones I'm keeping, but they just mean something to me inside.
Right. Yeah.
So listen, we're up on the end of our time. Why don't you share how we get a hold of you, or what you can do to help people if they have questions, etc.
If people want to email or contact us, I mean, I'm on Twitter. We have a website. If people want to ask any questions, if you could relay those to us, that'd be fantastic. And then Jonathan's got a Spotify list. He's working on that Instagram.
We've got a Spotify playlist that's just designed for dancing. And then another Spotify list called Designed for Dancing Folk Dances. And our website is just designfordancing.net.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, what a thrill. I mean, I didn't think I'd have this much fun on the show, but you gave me so many great ideas for my aunt.
I love the idea of karaoke. That's great. That's great.
It is.
You can just give her a microphone. It doesn't have to work.
It doesn't have to be on.
But it's always cooler if it does work.
Of course, but she'll still, there's a different kind of connection.
Right. Well, again, a reminder, all our live shows become recorded pod and video casts on all our platforms mentioned before, like YouTube, Block Talk Radio, Podbean, and many others. Also, my membership website, caregiverdave.com, free membership support. It's a community with lots of free gifts and resources at caregiverdave.com. Please click the like button if you're listening to this on YouTube or any other platform that has that stuff at the bottom. It helps the algorithms share this to many others. And to all my listeners, thank you again for tuning in each and every week. I'm at caregiverdave.com. Adrian is at thecaregiverspace.org. And she has a great caregiver community, much larger than mine, 160,000 and some change. And we'll see you next time, same channel. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
We are a community of caregivers that understands and supports you wherever you are in your journey. We are a place to connect with other caregivers, but more importantly, a place to get practical, actionable help. There are lots of ways for you to get support. First of all, you can download our welcome pack. This will get you started on your Thrive journey. Next, you can ask and get answers to your questions by posting them here in our private Facebook groups. You can also get live online support by attending one of our live weekly Connect webinars. You can get practical, actionable advice by listening to our weekly podcast. You can hear and read other stories about other caregivers' experiences, plus add your own in our weekly Share Your Story forum, posted every Tuesday in the Facebook group. You can access essential resources and download practical Thrive Solutions packs, all of which are geared to help you thrive as a caregiver. You get lifetime access to all of our resources. Again, we're here to support you and help you thrive and to enjoy your life as a caregiver. And remember, this is a place to get hope, not just cope.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.